In this episode of Pending and Trending, I sit down with Carmel Archdekin. Carmel's been in the Philadelphia real estate industry for nearly 20 years. Carmel purchased her first home with me as her agent some time ago. In this episode, we talk about smart investing, we talk about title issues, we talk about how buyers are getting into their dream homes in a competitive market and helping sellers prep their homes for sale. If you are into real estate, relationships, this episode's for you. It's packed with wisdom and Philly insights. Welcome to Pending and Trending. I am your host, Deidre Quinn, and this podcast is all about helping real estate agents stay ahead in today's fast-moving market. With over 20 years of experience and a passion for building relationships, I bring you the latest tips, trends, and strategies to elevate you and your business. Whether you're looking to dominate a niche, stay sharp on industry shifts, or build your own generational wealth, you are in the right place. Let's get to it, because what's trending today can get you pending tomorrow. Welcome back to Pending and Trending. I'm your host, Deidre Quinn, and today's episode is extra special and dear to my heart. I have Carmel Archdekin here. She's a seasoned real estate professional based in Philadelphia. She has nearly 2 decades of experience in residential sales, investments, and new construction. She holds a marketing degree and her CNE, which is Certified Negotiation Expert. She delivers strategic, client-focused service, praised for her proactive, reliable, and caring approach, and she's deeply connected to Philadelphia and active in community organizations. Carmel has a portfolio of unforgettable stories and a deep understanding of what makes Philadelphia so unique. From wild deals that almost didn't close to navigating new construction trends and condo dynamics, she's seen it all. So whether you are a fellow agent, an investor, or just someone who loves real estate, you're going to love this one. Let's dive in. So Carmel, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
And let's just get started and let our audience know what's the surprising or funny experience that you can share with everyone today.
The funny experience that we had together, or something on
that we had together. Yeah.
My husband used to work at For Pete's Sake with your husband, and we ended up buying our first house with Deidre Quinn. She was my first agent, and that was before, obviously, I got into the business, and it was great. I remember I think we saw 12 homes in Pennsport and bought this cute little starter home, and we still have it, and Deirdre was awesome. And so I guess I love the experience because I got into the business.
There you go. That's awesome. But Carmel, that resonates with me because as we sit here now side by side as colleagues and friends, that speaks so much to the power of relationships in this business. And I really real estate isn't just about the property. It's about the people, the trust, and long-term connection.
Totally.
I love that you went on and got your license and you still are so active and thriving in the business, which is awesome after all this time. So let's talk a little bit, Carmel, about some unusual or unexpected moments that you face with clients and how that pans out.
Yeah, I love the business because it's different every day, but sometimes that different is not always a good thing.
You've seen it all.
There's never a day when I can say I've seen it all, because the next day is a new surprise.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a truckload of stories too.
Yeah. So do you have something that you can share with us?
Yeah, so we're still in the thick of it. So clients of mine that were referred to me, the sweetest couple, we looked for a little while and we put in an offer and we were set to close in a week. And they did a bring down on the title report and they were like, oh, the title company said, there's a Liz pendants on the property from the previous people that were under contract with it. So it was on the market, went under contract. Those buyers didn't get the mortgage and the contract ran out. There was no extension. And so that's it. The listing agent put it back on the market and we came along and we made an offer. It was a competitive situation. We ended up going significantly over, and those buyers slapped a Liz pendants on the property to stop the sale. So
For sure. Yeah.
When you have a Liz pendants on the property, you cannot close.
Right.
until it is legally removed. And so they have to go to mediation. They've all lawyered up and we're out and we can't close on this amazing house that these buyers were super qualified for and we're ready to go. That's never happened in my 18
Yeah,
years of
no, and
doing
there's
business.
always something new and great that there's title insurance. Otherwise, you could have that cloud for sure. So that's never a dull moment in the biz.
Nope, nope, nope.
Goodness. So you also have a story that we had talked about previously, how you sold a couple of lots for people to build new construction. Tell me about that. And that's not something that was done a ton in the past, but we're seeing a bit more of now.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is? And what can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So the two specific people we were looking around, it was in the suburbs. One was in Westchester and one was in Bucks County. And specifically, it's really tough to get a property out there so competitive in both areas. And we got to the point where I don't want to overpay on a house that I don't really love. So there was these opportunities to sell a decent amount of land, and there was a builder tie-in. So we're using the same builder for both properties, and they're going to get to build a house for less than what it costs them to buy something that is a resale, and they're going to get it exactly the way they want it.
That's great. That's great. So
So yeah.
what a great workaround for your clients, right?
Yeah, for me, it takes a little longer, and there's a lot more involved in the process for the new construction and getting all the permits, and it's very intensive. At the end of the day, my people are really happy, and they're going to get what they want. So,
That's
yeah,
great. That's great. And they have to wait longer too. But some of these people perhaps have been competing for well over a year in a lot of cases. So then
right,
to get something like this that takes a little longer, the end result is favorable, right?
absolutely, yeah.
So tell us, Carmela, about give us a memorable highlight in your 2 decades in the business here. What can you say? What can you tell us that really strikes you as memorable on your journey?
There's a lot, but I remember during COVID, I had a client couple so sweet. We were competing against 25 offers. I've never seen it go that high. And we actually were not the highest, but I guess we were the most qualified. And so that was super exciting. That was the highest amount of multiple offers I've ever been involved in. And then I had what my best friend, I found a house on my street off market. And I was like, hey, I think you need to look at this house. And they weren't even like really considering it. And she came and looked at it, and by the end of the like a couple days later, she had put in an offer and we were listing her house in Roxborough, and now she lives on my street. And that was so cool to be able to do that.
That's amazing. And how great is it to have your friend living right nearby?
It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, it's real. I love to be involved in people's lives that it's really personal and you get to do so much. It's a special industry. There's a lot of people that do real estate for the money and for the lifestyle. And I think that there's a lot of people that do it because it's a personal connection. And that's how I work. And I think that's how you work. And it just means so much at the end of the day that we get to do this job and people really that we're making a difference, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm super passionate about it, and I know you are, and that is really being part of their journey, and that end result is so rewarding, really. It really is. You mentioned your friend that you found a house for on your block, and that is one of the main reasons that people move when you look at any of the NAR data, and they move because they want to be closer to friends or family. So the fact that you can impact somebody's life and then have them, that's a quality of life thing to be so close to a friend, and people want their friends and their family nearby, which is quite honestly why we market to the neighbors when we're we're doing listings as well because they tell their friends and family they want their friends and family to live near them. Let's talk a little bit about what makes the Philadelphia market unique. And I was just talking with somebody yesterday about this, but Philadelphia tends to stand the storms better than a lot of other markets. And
Agreed.
what would you say in the 20 years or almost 20 years that you've been in business, right? You see a lot of ups and downs in a lot of different markets, and you have to pivot and do things differently. But what
Mhm.
makes Philadelphia stand out? What makes Philadelphia not be subject to the low lows and the high highs, perhaps, because we're relatively in Philadelphia, we're behind other cities, East Coast cities, from a price standpoint. So, what can you say about that?
Yeah, I think it's the meds and eds, right? So we have
Yeah.
a lot of universities and hospitals that people come to and stay, whether it's like a fellowship or a residency, or they're coming for education and they fall in love with it. It's a really cool town. It's a it's touristy, and yeah, we're close to a lot of hubs: New York, Washington D.C., the beach. It's really a wonderful place, and that, yeah, I always tell people that we never see that the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. We remain steady. And that's we've been through many different markets,
Yeah.
and we had the foreclosures in '07, '08, '09, but we never had it as bad as some of the other markets. And so when people say, new people in the business, oh my gosh, like we're going to go through a crash, it's like, yes, we might go through a correction, but it's never going to be devastating. I try to tell people, or is when they come in, if they are worried about the prices, it's never going to be as staggering as some of the other cities. People always say, should I time the market? You really can't. It's really difficult to do that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
in Philadelphia, like, you're not really going to, in my opinion, lose money. As long as you hold it for enough time, you're never going to really lose money, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, historically, if you look at any of the graphs, historically real estate appreciates. You
Yeah,
might see a little dip along the way, but if you look at the line of appreciation, it continues to rise historically, right?
absolutely.
I share this story a lot, but I followed a house, actually a specific house. I won't name the address, but I followed it from way back in, I want to say 2004, and I saw it then, and it was sold for 292.5, and it's since sold three times. The next time it sold in the fives, I listed it again and it sold for 630,000, and then recently it sold for the 650. So it's like over time you look at that and how it appreciates. So when people are like, okay, real estate's high right now, it's not a good time to buy. You know what? Like, you still have appreciation, you still need a place to live, and you still would be
Right.
paying, you still aren't paying rent, you're building your own equity. I know you get involved in renovations and you help your clients with that. So let's talk a little bit about that because I find there's been a shift, and maybe the shift is since COVID, that fewer people really want to take on a home that needs work, whereas previously, maybe 15 or so years ago, that was more of a trend for people to buy and put some sweat equity in and build that appreciation. So can you weigh in on that a little bit?
Yeah, I have seen a trend away from like the fixer upper. It seems, especially first time home buyers, they really don't want to do work. They're busy, they have busy jobs, like a lot of stuff going on, and they just want something that is move and ready. And that's what everybody wants. So those are the homes that sell quickly and for the most money. And I always try to explain to people, if you want a deal or if you want a little bit of an edge, go for the home that has been sitting on the market a little while, or the grandma house, because you're going to overpay for something that is done the way somebody else did it. But if you go for something that needs a little work, if you're not afraid of that, you can really get something that you're going to love, and you're going to get it at a better price, because not a lot of people do it. And I think people are worried about finding the right contractors, and obviously that's important. And I have a whole list of contractors that I give out. And when we go through the house, I always say, I explain to them, oh, you could take this wall out, or can you imagine if you put a window here or something like that? It's you have to really walk them through it. But at the end of the day, they're going to get a house that they love.
Yeah. You know, and I like that, right? Especially when people are competing to look at some properties that have been on the market, right? Something hits the market, people flock to it, they get offers, you're competing with multiple offers. Whereas if you take a step back, look at some of the properties that have been sitting on the market for a while, look at some properties that you could put a little love in. So that's great. That's great advice. Let's talk a little bit about the Philadelphia condo market.
Yeah, condos are interesting. They've always been slower in Philadelphia. I think that's probably across the board. Condos just take longer to sell. And especially like one bedroom condos, they're a little bit more difficult to sell. However, I do think that with rising interest rates, homes have a couple things. Rising interest rates and rising prices make it a little bit less affordable for first-time homebuyers, especially if you could get something in a condo. As long as the condo fee works, I think that we're seeing a little bit more movement just because the prices are a little bit lower than single-family homes. So when I looked at the data, condos that are below 420,000 are pretty steady in sales, which is more definitely selling faster than they have in the past due to, I think, the prices.
What would you say, Carmel, about what advice would you give a buyer that's looking at condos? What's one of the most important things if someone's going to purchase in a condo building? Like, what do you really look at to make sure they're not going to get hit with a lot of expensive charges?
Yeah, so it's really based on what the buyer wants. If there's a ton of amenities in the building and that buyer has a gym membership or they like to bike and they're never going to use the amenities, then you're going to pay foolishly for things you're not going to use. So we would move on from those buildings. And then also during the condo review period, you take a look at the rules and regulations, the budget, the surveys, the reserve fund surveys to make sure that the property has a really good reserve fund. You don't want to buy into a building that's old and they only have a couple less than $100,000 in reserves, because then you know that you're going to be down the pike paying for all the improvements out of pocket and not out of the reserve fund. There's a couple buildings in Philadelphia that have super healthy reserve funds, and then there's others that are really not in a good spot. And so you want to know that ahead of time. And I do a lot of condos, so I know which buildings are good and which buildings aren't good. And yeah, you also want to look at the price, the condo fee over time and how much it's gone up. So you can look at that and know whether or not you're going to be hit or not with unexpected fees in the future.
For sure. So you want to look at the budget, you want to look at the reserves, and of course the rules and regulations, because
Yep.
if someone has a 50-pound dog and they don't allow dogs at all, or they don't allow dogs over 25 pounds, then that's a living issue. So those
Yep.
are all really good points. What are some great hot areas, prime for development, growing areas that you're seeing in Philadelphia right now?
I love East Falls. I think that is such an under recognized area. I used to live there and it's so diverse as far as row homes up to mansions. And there is a lot of development going on. It's such a cute little pocket of Philadelphia. So you'll see a lot of development going on there. Fishtown, obviously, it's exploded over the last 10 years, plus 10 plus years. I don't even think there's any more green space. There's
Yeah,
so much development.
amazing,
Um,
right?
yeah, I used to say that about Northern Liberties. They're neck and neck, I guess. I feel like it used to be Brewery Town. What do you think? I'm not sure about that. I think that's slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, I see the borderlines of Fishtown now really popping, right? What the Kensington area, there's a lot happening there.
Yep.
At Brewerytown, I feel like really shot up for a while and is still seeing growth, but not maybe as much as some other areas.
Yeah.
As far as like when you are talking to your clients and they're like, okay, you know what? They do decide that they're gonna be doing some renovations on their home what and they say, okay, what's the best things for me to do? What am I going to get a return on my investment for? And say they're preparing to list their house, what advice do you give them?
Yeah. Just a heavy house cleaning, getting rid of extra items, paint touch up. The magic eraser is like the best thing you could ever invest in.
Right. My goodness.
So, painting, touching up the baseboards, landscaping, cleaning up the flower beds, mulching, really just thinning out and getting it fresh, because buyers really have a hard time seeing past clutter. And especially if that's all you can see in the pictures, they won't even come to the house. So really getting rid of stuff and painting, I think, is the best thing you can do. I don't like to tell people to put too much money into getting it ready unless it's something that is absolutely necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, no, paint goes a long way. Okay, great. Is there one thing, Carmel, that you could say to our listeners that would increase their business or their personal wealth?
That's a good one. So Mike McCann has a saying, it is, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. And so as an agent, we have the biggest opportunity to buy real estate and hold it and rent it out or flip. I have 5 investment properties. I bought them early in my career, and my plan is to keep buying them. And I think that is really the most important thing. We have first dibs at it, and we don't have retirement plans. So those are our retirement plans. So I think buy real estate and wait. And I think that is my biggest tip for agents.
I love that. I love that. Carmel, thank you so much for being on with us. You are one of those agents that bring like heart and hustle to the table. You have an incredible mix of experience, intuition, and authenticity that just makes you wonderful. So
Oh, you're the best.
I see why you're so successful and memorable to work with, and it's been an amazing full circle experience, right? A huge thanks to you for joining us and sharing your wisdom, warmth, and one of a kind stories. And if you're looking to buy, sell, or stay in the know, make sure to follow Carmel and check out our site at philly-luxury.com. You'll find everything from listings to video content and tools like HomeBot to track your equity. And don't forget to subscribe to Pending and Trending so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep building, keep learning, and keep making moves.
Thanks, Deirdre.
That's a wrap on this episode of Pending and Trending, where hot meets what's happening in real estate. If you found today's conversation helpful, we'd love for you to hit follow or subscribe, leave a quick review, and share the episode with fellow agent or industry pro. Got a trend, tip, or hot take we should be talking about? Send it our way, and we might feature it in an upcoming episode. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, stay sharp, keep your transactions in motion, and let your energy keep trending.